Please welcome to the stage Ellyn Metcalf of the National Medal of Honor Museum Foundation and our esteemed panel.
Every one of us has courage within them. Everyone born with it. And when that moment will come that you need to show that courage, you will know that that's what you have to do.
These are powerful words from a true hero who we recently lost. Like every one of us, Medal of Honor recipients are ordinary people who, during a very challenging moment, chose to take extraordinary action for others. General Brady, another Medal of Honor recipient, always says that fear is an emotion. Courage is a choice. Choosing courage and leading in the moment can change someone's life. It can change communities, and we know it has changed the course of history. Courage is something within each of us, yet it looks different depending on who we are and the circumstances we face. I am honored to be on stage today with three individuals who have demonstrated and chosen courage in very unique ways. Master Chief Slabinski, I'd like to direct the first question to you. You received the Medal of Honor demonstrating courage above and beyond the call of duty. It was on a mission in Afghanistan, and so many things went wrong. Amid that chaos, in that situation, was there a moment when you knew you were choosing courage? You knew this is what I had to do. Can you share that situation, that scene with us?
Yeah, certainly. Pleasure to be here with all of you. You know, it's being a Medal of Honor recipient. It's kind of a little uncomfortable place to be. A lot of the recipients will all tell you that they were just doing their job that day, fulfilling promises that they made. And you know, I feel exactly the same way. We wear the medal in remembrance of those that we went into battle with. That day was early morning on March 4th, 2002. Our mission was to put in a strategic overwatch position on top of a mountain in eastern Afghanistan. And our aircraft had heavy rocket RPG fire and machine gun fire, bullets about the size of your finger passing through it. And one of my teammates got thrown out of the back of the helicopter, and I could remember very clearly seeing him get through my night vision goggles, seeing his legs fall out of the aircraft. So I knew right then that, okay, I've got another problem here in front of me. The air crew did an amazing job saving our lives, but we ended up having a controlled crash into valley below an enemy-controlled territory. So I called another helicopter and got us out and took us back to pretty much the safe area where we had started, probably an hour or 2 hours earlier. So the moment we're talking about, where I think probably everyone here has had a moment in your life, a crucible moment in your life, where you had to make a decision, whether it be a physical one or a moral or an ethical decision in front of you that you just can't ignore. This was my moment, and I'm sitting in a safe area. What essentially was my second helicopter of the night, trying to think through, what's my next move here? Do I take my team and do I go back up to the top of this mountain? It was about 11,000 foot mountain, and make an immediate rescue attempt with my teammate. And there were a very small amount of us. There was 6 of us left at this point, going up against a very numerically superior and more powerful enemy force. Or do I wait for a much larger force of my own, which, in probability speaking, the probability of success would have been much higher, but would probably have amounted to a recovery of the remains of my teammate. So one would have been a rescue and one would have been a recovery. And I remember very clearly, if I could paint a picture for you, the helicopter I'm sitting in kind of looks like if you imagine a school bus, the yellow school buses you see floating around, if you paint it black and put 2 little mixers on the end of it, that's kind of the aircraft that we're sitting on. It's my second one of the night, because the first one, remember, we just got shot down in. And I remember very clearly sitting on the back of that. It's got a ramp in the back before you get on and off. And wearing clothes not much more than we are wearing here. It's Eastern Afghanistan. It's the 4th of March. It's cold, to say the least. And I remember smelling the exhaust of the aircraft coming through. All of you going on and off airplanes, you smell that smell of what the exhaust is. And you know, the aircraft is still running, vibrating into your bones. And in the back of my mind, you know, processing all this information, all the tactical pieces of it, all the logistics, everything. Do I do this? What do I need? And I remember thinking to myself that I kept avoiding the main decision I needed to make. Like, you're going to cloud your mind with all this ancillary things, but there's that obstacle that's right in front of you that, man, you can ignore it all you want, and you just got to face it. And in the back of my mind, you know, it's funny the things you learn when you're kids, the little things that you pick up. I was an Eagle Scout growing up. I made Eagle Scout when I was 14 years old, so that was pretty quick. And I remember that night just sitting there, and this thought in the back of my mind was, hey, on my honor, I will do my best to do my duty. And I paid attention to that thought and said, yes, right, I have yet to do my full duty. I made a promise to my teammate and all of us that have served in uniform, any uniform. And we make a promise to each other that we're going to take care of each other. And that was my crucible moment to say, look, the situation may not be perfect. I might not have the right amount of capacity to do the job I'm about to do, but I still have some capacity. I would be derelict in my responsibilities to my teammate if I didn't go and make an attempt and try. So we went and made an attempt.
You chose courage.
Choose. It was a choice.
Thank you. Thank you. We're going to get to the bright blue jacket here in a minute, but first I'd like to turn to Charlotte. At our National Medal of Honor Griffin Institute, we talk about leading in the moment. Each of us have moments that test us and challenge us, and these are times when we have to show up, choose to lead. Charlotte, you use your platform of incredible influence to lead in so many ways. You've been chairman of the Salvation Army, raising $3 billion to help individuals and communities around the world. You're the chairman of the NFL Foundation. You're the chairman of our National Medal of Honor Museum Foundation, and many, many more powerful institutions. You could do so many things with your platform of the Dallas Cowboys. However, you seem very motivated to choose to lead missions which are for the good of others. Can you share with us why you're drawn to that, please?
Well, I think I've always believed, one of our head coaches, when he was talking to our team about integrity and courage, he told them, he said, you know, the purpose of life is to live a purposeful life. And for me, that resonates. It really sticks home with me. And I think the fact that we have this incredible platform in the NFL, and for us with the Dallas Cowboys, that it truly is a responsibility. It's a privilege to be a part of that. And it's a responsibility to use that privilege and that visibility to make someone else's life better and to make our communities stronger. And for me, it is only natural when this project came up to support the National Medal of Honor and the museum and to take these amazing values that we all aspire to have. How do we spread that? How do we teach that? How do we encourage that? And if we could give visibility and just an intensity to what they do every day, then maybe our world would be just a little bit better. And I feel like our game, it may be a very naive position to take, but I think our game is about unity. It brings people together. And from all walks of life, you know, from all ages, all beliefs, everybody comes in and for a minute, they forget what divides us, and they cheer and they come together for what brings us together. And there's a reason why this museum hasn't been built yet, and it may sound odd, but it's because we need it now more today than we've ever needed before. We have a fractured country, and this is a way to bring us together, is to celebrate the values of courage and to respect and honor the men and women who have served our country and who choose courage every day.
Thank you. And we couldn't be more grateful for you choosing to be part of our mission. Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you. So, Chris Cassidy, you have logged the 5th most hours in space of any person in history. You have literally pushed the human limits. You have demonstrated incredible courage and leadership as a Navy SEAL and astronaut. What unique perspectives would you like to share with others looking to lead and choose courage in their lives?
Well, first of all, I think after Sonny and Butch get stuck in space for a million years, I'm going to drop lower on that list. But it's a great question, Ellen. We're also fortunate to have many experiences, and mine have included time with Britt in Afghanistan and time in space. And what, for me, was so personally rewarding about time on the International Space Station is that international contribution of all the countries and all the different astronauts that are up there. And I remember walking to the launch pad on my second mission, which was in a Russian Soyuz, launching from Kazakhstan, passing by a team of engineers and technicians from the Russian Space Agency, and thinking to myself, those guys and gals are exactly the same courageous workers that we have at the Kennedy Space Center. Different nation, different group of people, but the same passion and drive to put crews safely in space. And people often say, oh, it takes so much courage to sit on a pile of fuel and have somebody light it on fire and go to space. If you don't understand that when you launch, you shouldn't be there. But that's not the courageous part, I think. As a management astronaut, it was far more difficult for me to watch my friends get in that thing, be standing there with their families and sons and daughters with my arms around them, watching their loved ones launch. That's where the courage was. And so it's that team of people that support others going off to do challenging things that I think is equally courageous. And Britt and I both served. You served too in the Coast Guard. And it's a team sport. And so at the Medal of Honor Museum, we're going to highlight those stories of courage and let people know that anybody has access to the bucket of courage, and you can access it anytime.
And it shows up in many ways.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. This is for Britt. When people think of the military or they think of battles, they kind of think about adversity and division. But successfully leading with courage requires collaboration and building trusting relationships. What are some ways that the military values can translate to civilian organizations and teams?
Yeah, you know, I think leading in the military, I think it's much easier than leading in the civilian world. I mean, wouldn't you think? I mean, for me, let's face it. I mean, does the military have an HR department? I don't think they do. Like, if someone walks into my office, they say their day's not going to get any better. Right? It's just like, hey, it's only going one or two ways here. So in the civilian world, you don't really have that. You have to lead, and really in the same way in the military, right? Aside from leading someone into some very stressful situations like we have, right? You have to lead certainly with courage, and let's define courage. There's many levels of it. I think we know mainly courage is a very kinetic piece, right? That's very physical. But there's emotional courage, right? There's social courage, there's intellectual courage, ethical and moral courage. And maybe the physical piece might come easier to some people, but the other ones, particularly given this day and age, they're much more important. And just realizing that to have that level of courage and to believe in your own convictions, right? This is what I believe in, and I'm not going to be swayed with it, but have the courage to say, hey, maybe I could be wrong here. I'm going to listen to this other side and really try to understand that side. And then there's this piece about compassion, really having compassion and being human. Don't forget, we are leading humans, and this is hey, we're all in this together, and as the old saying goes, none of us are getting out of here alive, and just treating each other with that compassion and humanity during on that journey, right? And I have witnessed that more times than ever being in uniform, and that's just an inspiring thing for me.
And how great to hear from a military perspective, this idea of compassion and empathy. Thank you so much. So Charlotte, from your perspective, how do you encourage a similar leadership style with athletes and teams?
Well, you talk about courage. It takes a lot of courage to be a Cowboy fan walking the streets of New York these days. So. But I think for us, inspiring courage. I mean, when you talk about building a team, what it takes to build a team is to trust. Is to trust your teammates, to trust your colleagues, to trust that they're going to do their job so that you all work together to get to the end goal. And sometimes that alone takes courage.
Yes.
In our world, on the field, a quarterback has to trust that his lineman's going to make a block. If he doesn't, down he goes, and that takes a lot of courage to step up in there and think, this guy's got me, so now I'm going to go make it happen. But it's really just a great analogy to what it actually means to find your courage. And I love that you referenced General Brady earlier, and he has always said that we are all born with an unlimited supply of courage. And it's our choice on whether we choose to activate it or not. And I hope that as we look at these stories of these incredible men who've served our country, that we realize that very common people are making very uncommon decisions based on courage, but they're very everyday people. They get up just like you and I get up every day, but what they face is far more sensitive in what their action will result in than maybe sometimes we think on a daily basis of what an act of courage looks like, when in fact all of us every day have to choose to be courageous entering into whatever field that we do, or how we raise our children, or how we treat our neighbors.
You've set me up for my follow-up question beautifully. So that's, in your philanthropy, you have focused a lot on youth, and that's our question. Why is it so important that these Medal of Honor recipient stories and values, why is it important we share this with the next generation so that they can continue to guide our collective future?
I think today it's really hard when we look at our leaders that are visible in our country to see courage, to see integrity, to see character. And when you hear the stories of these men beside me, they exude character and integrity. And so how are we going to teach the next generation of what does character-driven leadership actually look like? And we need stories. We need to humanize what these efforts actually look like so that our kids will grow up and say, you know what, I actually can do that too. And how do we do that? And we're so excited that actually this project will help do that. And we are able to take these values that are really instilled in the museum and the stories that are told there and spread them across the country and digitize them so that we're in 29,000 schools across the country right now talking about character based on stories like Britt's. And that's what we need more of. And that's really what our country is made of. And we just need to make sure our children know that's what our country is made of.
Thank you. And I would just reiterate that I have seen firsthand the impact on young people when they meet a recipient and hear the stories, and they are able to build that bridge to their own lives, and they walk out incredibly inspired. So thank you, Charlotte, again, for being a part of this mission with us. Chris, another question for you. The enduring values of the Medal of Honor, they represent courage, integrity, commitment to others. These are character traits that we believe are intrinsically human, similar to what you talked about at your observations at the space station. But in particular, you have lived in space for over a year with Russian cosmonauts. We know right now there's not a lot of love lost between the US and Russia. How can these universal values of the Medal of Honor help foster greater global unity and cooperation in today's divided world?
Yeah, Ellen, that's a great question. And to Charlotte's point earlier, where building a team is about building trust. You can trust the left and right has got your blind side, if you will. And the same is true for us on the space station. sitting there across the table, sharing food, sharing stories of your day, sharing challenges with an experiment or a tricky maintenance project with a Russian cosmonaut. During 2020, I was up there with two cosmonauts, and it struck me that was when turmoil was really starting to creep its head in lots of ways: COVID, civil unrest, the tension between our nations. But up there, the trust that we had established, trust between ourselves in the couple of years preceding the mission. So there was this foundation of team that existed, even though there was sort of stray voltage coming up on the radio and through the internet to us. It could have been distracting, but rooted in trust. And so I think back to all those words that you said: commitment, integrity. It boils down to trust in each other, trust that you're going to do what you say you're going to do, integrity, trust that you're going to stick to the job at hand, commitment. And all of that is true with the experience I've had with the Russian cosmonauts and all our nation's forces, whether it's other forces that we train and work with in the military or other countries that we fly in space with.
Yeah, thank you. It's the idea that these are the enduring values of humanity that we all possess, and they show up that way. Our final question is for Britt. Can you share, as a Medal of Honor recipient, why you believe it's so important for us to be building this museum, establishing our institute, to share these stories and values?
I think we've been on this journey building this thing for 3 years now, almost 3 years now. And one of the initial thoughts, that conversations we had, I remember sitting around our board when we were forming the board together, thinking about, hey, wouldn't it be great if when everyone leaves the doors, not when they walk in, but when they leave, right, the thought strikes them that, but wouldn't it be great if we made a recipient of one of these, and not just our nation's Valor Awards, but any nation Valor Awards, where we have to take, right, our blood and our treasure and put them into conflict to solve our differences, right? And we all know a lot of them aren't going to be coming home. So wouldn't it be great if we could have this lofty idea that somehow, if we figure out a way to communicate more effectively, that we make one of these an endangered species, that we're not awarding valorous awards, but as a species we have evolved beyond the conditions that would create one. And that's why I think the museum's important, right? Let's make Valor Awards endangered.
A beautiful vision. Thank you so much that you just shared. So we're actually out of time, but I do want to thank Charlotte and Britt and Chris for being here with us today. And I'm going to ask all of you to, if you'd like to learn more about our mission, please visit us online at the National Medal of Honor Museum.org. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ellyn. Thank you.